Hey guys, so I'm re-recording this. I realized that some of the audio might be messed up a bit, and I'm sorry about that. I was a little bit low energy, uh, just getting off work and stuff. Um, but here we are in week three, or week two, going into week three. Here's our week two report. We had a lot of injuries happen, a lot of stuff go down, and a lot of records being broke. With our injuries, we had like Paolo Banchero, CJ McCollum, Scotty Barnes. Paul George is coming back this week. Who else? Who else? Who else? Taylor Hendricks absolutely like had destroyed his leg like they were Legos. It was awful. I don't think there was any other major ones. We heard of DeJounte Murray's injury from the previous week. So let's get into the records and then we'll get into the scores. So here we are. Let's start out with uh, Buddy Hield, who gets 20th on the 3 pointers of all time. 3 pointers of all time. All time 3 pointers. He's almost at 2,000. He just eclipsed JJ Redick, who's now the head coach of the Lakers. Buddy Hield, who was one of the leading 3-point shooters last year, I believe he's going to do the same, and he's going to be the splash step bro for Steph Curry, even though he's been injured. He also got injured. I don't know his timeline. I just remembered he was, but I think it's day to day. It shouldn't be too major. But for Buddy Hield, I believe he's going to get top 10 easily by the end of his career, even though there are a lot of active players on this list. But for Buddy Hield, that's great to see, and I hope he keeps it up. Now on to Domantas Sabonis, who then also broke records, getting onto the top 10 triple doubles of all time. Why do I keep saying like it's the single triple double? The amount of triple doubles. He reached 60, eclipsing Larry Bird. Larry Bird was at 59. I feel like if you're any athlete and you have a 9 at the end of your record, it sucks. I mean, you see Russell Westbrook at 199. He needs one more, and I feel like he's needed one more for a while now, and I just feel like that's torture. That is just absolute torture. But nobody's catching up to Russell Westbrook soon. I mean, Jokic is creeping up there, but that's a task. That is a task, and that's going to take his entire career to get there. LeBron at 5. It's probably not reaching there anytime soon, even though he did get a triple double last week. But good for Domantas and good for the Kings. Let's head into the scores. All right, so here are the scores. As we can see, an absolute beating was taking place here. Godfather, 272 points is an all-time high for the entire season for any team. 272 beats anybody, any day, anytime. And it was on the back of Bam Adebayo, almost getting 42 fantasy points, dropping 32 points, 2 assists, 14 rebounds, and a steal and a block in a game where they played in Mexico City against the Wizards. Absolute beast. The entire team performed. You hate to see it against a team like Web Warrior. You want this kind of performance against a top tier team, but Team Web Warrior, 181.5 points. There wasn't a chance he was being Godfather this week, but you would like to see some more improvement. Web Warrior. Jalen Williams had a great week. 30.75 points. For a young boy like that, that's what you like to see. And as you can see in the stats below, pretty much every statistical category beaten. The Godfather beat Team Web Warrior, and that's all you need to do to have an absolute stomping. On to our next game. We have the Emperors playing Team Dam, and Team Dam took it away. 218.13 points. Does it on the back of Ja Morant. Ja Morant drops a triple-double, which the theme for the Emperors to face. Again, the double-doubles and triple-doubles are killing the Emperors. But the big thing that killed the Emperors this week was the assists. I mean, almost a 20 assist difference between teams. And on top of that, Team Dam didn't even have Scotty Barnes. They lost him midweek, and the game that he used was a 45-point game. That helps, but it also is like there was a chance there. For the Emperors, there was a missed opportunity with Paolo Banchero, who also is going to be out for a month and a half, he dropped a 50-point game, dropping, I believe, almost 62 points in fantasy, 62 fantasy points. But we don't see him here because the Emperors chose the wrong game. Just so unfortunate. Would have completely flipped the tides. It would have been a 250-point game. But you hate to see it. Jared Allen leads us with 37.75 points. This is uncertain times for the Emperors, especially with Paolo exiting. So we'll have to see how this turns out. On to our third game. We have the Harlem Globetrotters playing the Mog Squad in the game of the week. Harlem Globetrotters put up another 250 points with Zion Williamson almost putting up 40, dropping 34 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals. That's absolutely what you needed. It seems like the Harlem Globetrotters are rolling now, so I'd be scared if you face them in the future. Harlem Globetrotters had a 40-point differential between them and the Mog Squad. Everything else is pretty close besides threes, which the Mog Squad had an 11-3 difference. As for the Mog Squad, they dropped 213.25 points on the with Cat dropping almost 40 as well. But it just wasn't enough. And they would have beaten most teams, but facing a top 2 team, you got to play better. You just got to play better. On to our next matchup. We got Team Lobster facing another top 2 team, the Fraggle Rock 9. And Team Lobster was like a kid throwing a stone at a stone castle. There's just nothing's going to happen. Fraggle Rock 9 also drops over 250 points at 252 on the back of Kevin Durant, dropping 36. And that really goes to show you that it was a real team effort for the Fraggle Rock 9, which should scare opponents. If your top scorer is only putting up 36 fantasy points, that's dangerous. Everybody else. That means that most of his team, if not all, are putting up 30 points. As for Team Lobster, Zach LaVine had a great week. Honestly, what it shows is that Zach LaVine might be on the market for some playoff team. You need to make a push. But if you look at every statistical category, the Fraggle Rock 9 beat the Lobster, and it just was. On to our fifth matchup. We have the Kanto Embers versus Team Army Jr. in a close match. Only a 7-point game. Less than 7-point game. Team Army Jr. had Dame drop 44 points, but it was all for nothing because they lost by like 7 points. Wait, crowd does math. By 6.5 points. Basically 7. But what really killed Team Army Jr. is that he played Paul George again this week, who dropped zilch. I think Kanto Embers also played a player. I think, was it Sasser or somebody who also dropped zilch to that match? But if either one of these teams switched out those players, it would have been a completely different story. Kanto Embers could have had a solid lead, or Team Army Jr. could have ended up winning it. It's just tough scenes, and you can look at the stats here underneath me. It was really close. It was really knotted up. I mean, Team Army Jr. had the lead on the assists and points, but Kanto Embers had the lead on 3-pointers and double-doubles. Just, it was anybody's game. And when you have a player missing out, it comes down to that most of the time. Now on to our next game. We have Pack Nicely versus I Could Go for a Beer, and these are our second and third place top dogs, with Giannis putting up 48.75 points, standing him second with 34 points, 9 assists, 16 rebounds, and a steal, almost getting a triple-double. If he got that triple-double, he would have easily gotten top dog. Absolutely monster weeks. And they still lost, though, because this was only a point. It was a point between these guys. And it was honestly because Pack Nicely had played Taylor Hendricks instead of anybody else. Taylor Hendricks absolutely got his leg destroyed. I think he took a misstep and it broke. His leg just broke like a Lego piece. And that ended up only giving him 6.5 points for the player. Not what you want to see. As you see below, the stats were actually, I thought they'd be closer for how close these scores were, but some of these categories were way off. So kind of like checks and balances. Onto I Could Go for a Beer. Their best player got the third spot, third top dog, which landed them 48.25 points for the team, which is pretty close. That's more than a fourth of the points for the team for both teams. Jokic dropped 40, 4 assists, 10 rebounds, a steal, and 2 blocks. Absolutely getting it done. And I believe I Could Go for a Beer got lucky this week. This is going to be a game they look back on and be like, wow, we really needed that. Just unfortunate to see if you're packed nicely, because if you get this win, you're looking pretty. I mean, your chances of playoffs go that much higher because you're playing a playoff team. On to our last game. Team Zomps played Danville Dairy Daddies in a close game, which came down to the final game of the week. Luka Doncic played and got enough points, got like the 36 points needed to get the win. And as for our best players, there's two really top dogs, but Anthony Davis was barely on the outside, and Wemby got the top dog of the week at 49 points. And as you can see, an absolute monster stat line. He's the third player ever to have a 5x5, which is 5 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 5 steals, and 5 blocks, which is absolutely insane. I think it's Hakeem Olajuwon and somebody else. Andre Kirilenko. That up. But he's the third player ever to do that since steals and blocks were recorded starting in the 70s, which I feel like was way late. But crazy to see. This is only his second year, and he has his second 5x5 game. I mean, he's on pace to have 20 by the end of his career. But yeah, that got him his top dog and almost got him the win for the team. You hate to see it. It's like the Danville Dairy Daddies or the Spurs, Wemby absolutely going off, but they're getting the loss. As you can see in the stats below, it was pretty evenly matched up. What did it for Zom was the points. I mean, almost 30 points between the two teams. That's tough to beat. And you just don't like to see that, if you're the Danville Dairy Daddies and fans, you feel cheated almost. You feel cheated. But that's going to do us on games. Let's get into the highlight of the week. Here's Donovan Mitchell's highlight. Barely gets the inbound. Almost went out half court, but it was absolutely huge for the team. Wow, dude. Wow. Absolutely clutch. Gives them the 1-point lead. And this is the game winner. This is the game winner that makes the Cavs 7-0. 7-0. It's just wild. It's just wild. Cavs being 7-0 was not on my bingo card, and you just don't see that. All right, now after that highlight, let's get into our standings. There's gonna be some surprises here that I don't think people are gonna expect, especially with the Codfather being number 3. And that is because of the points for category. They're just absolutely mobbing. Absolutely mobbing. Same with Team Dam. And as you can see, Dairy Daddies and Team Zompt are there at the bottom. It's still very early in the season, so this snapshot could be very different from week 18. But, you love to see it. You love to see it. Team Armory Jr. all the way at the bottom, the defending champs, just absolutely crumbling. This might be the first time defending champ was at the bottom of the standings at all in the season post. But if you look at the standing, it's the perfect bell curve back. But week 2 in the books. Let's go into our power rankings with Fagan. See y'all after. yeah, and that was Fagan's rankings. Thank you, Fagan, again for being our analyst of the league. Um, Trying to get him into the league so he can see each of the players and stuff like that. Glad to have another week wrapped up. I feel like I rushed this video a bit, which I'm sorry for, but I think we got everything checked off. Love y'all. Make sure y'all check your lineups. I mean, today are some games, but there's still Tuesday through Sunday. Check your lineups. Make sure you don't have injured guys. Jake, you're lucky this week. You don't really have to check it because now Paul George is finally playing. You might have to check it soon though if Embiid's gonna play. I know you have him on your bench. But other than that, yeah, just check your injuries. And then two things actually. Two things. We found out this week. Careful towards the end of the week. If somebody's hurt, like we saw with Aiden and Team Dam, don't sub them out to your IR yet until the week's over because it will subtract from your score. The other thing is, and we saw with Kanto Embers, is Sasser from the Detroit Pistons. He didn't get a minute of play for the game Kanto Embers picked, but the 0 points still counted. It didn't go back to a game where he did play. It only goes back to a game when the player is injured. Only when they're injured. If they're fine and they're just riding the bench and doing nothing, it'll give you 0. And you can't sub them out after that once the score is fine. But the only time you can sub it out is if they're going on IR, which could be a sneaky play. You know, you don't realize that the game you picked, they're just out. You can sub them out. Like they only scored 6 points, and that's because their knee got destroyed. You can sub them out. I mean, for Pack Nicely, they could have subbed them out, even though they picked the last game of the week. But if you did pick that game where you got injured and it counted those points, you theoretically could take them out and put another. Just fruit for thought. Something for the commissioners if you get to this point in the video. Other than that, thank you guys. I did this last week, but stay tuned after this. I'm going to put up the matchups. I'll see y'all later. Bye.